Hello friends, welcome to the first ever speed paint with a voiceover. Today we're drawing a Vaporwave piece that was suggested to me from TikTok. I literally just titled it Live Fast, Eat Ass. So someone essentially asked if I could make a poster that had that text, and I thought it was so funny that I had to make it. So we're making one now. I actually ended up sizing this piece as a desktop wallpaper size. I don't know if anyone is interested, but if you are, let me know and I'll link it in the description or in the comments. So here what I really wanted to focus on was getting some texture in the background to make it feel like it was an actual poster that had been put up and kind of weathered a little bit. And I always find that it's super fun to do this because you can play around with so many different types of brushes. So now I've moved on to kind of working on some starry space-ish background stuff while layering on top of that kind of like weathered or distressed pattern, I guess, like these little speckles. And then I just wanted to add some more depth to the mountains in the background. And I really like doing a vignette with this kind of stuff because I find that it really helps with the text popping. And now I'm finally moving into text. I always find that it's crazy how many font options there are and how much of a difference it makes. I think choosing fonts specifically for what you're looking for ends up taking the most time and effort. So I wanted to go with something super structured, nothing too crazy, really. For this part, the type of font that I wanted to create, I've seen it a lot in other vapor text posters where it looks like it's super metallic, but there's this really bright outline for the words. And every time that I researched how people have done this, they usually have these like crazy Photoshop presets that you can like download or you can purchase in order to get the exact same effect. But I'm not really great with Photoshop and that's not really what I was looking for. So I kind of just sat down and tried to figure out how to do this. And this was the technique I guess I came up with, which is just layering the same font on top of it, original base font, I guess, in white, and then blooming the white to give that kind of metallic effect. It's definitely time consuming and I'm sure there's probably a lot more efficient ways to do this, but I'm stubborn, so this is what I came up with and I'm sticking to it. So now that I have the darker parts of the font in the places that I want them to be in, I kind of go over that with the clipping mask and just start adding the gradients of color that I want to see reflected in that kind of metallic vibe that I'm going for. And here you'll see I use a lot of Gaussian blur and I use a lot of the bloom effect to kind of get it to look as metallic as I want it to. And it's a lot of just kind of like trial and error and seeing what I like most with it, adjusting the colors so that they're vibrant and they stand out against the background. It's definitely time consuming. So I actually skipped forward here because essentially I had filmed the entire process of me cutting out those pieces of the font, but I ended up not liking how it looked after I finished this secondary part of the font. So I do end up actually going back in and changing it. So you'll see that much later. And then for this part of the text, the eat ass part, I really wanted it to look like cyberpunkish and very neon lettering style. So like, you know, neon signs outside of like storefronts and stuff like that. That's definitely the vibe that I was going for. And there's a lot of readjusting that I do here, essentially just to make it readable, because I find that like the more I bloom stuff, the more difficult it is to literally read what it says. So this is, yeah, just pretty much going back and forth with different shades of pink to see which one I liked and which one was the most readable and had the best effect, I guess. So now I'm just drawing in the classic kind of like sunset that you see a lot with Vaporwave pieces. I always end up going for a diagonal sun, I guess, that I like cut through with lines. I always end up liking it the best when I add all of the extra effects at the end. And here I'm just adding in some shadows and some highlights to make it really stand out. I do end up changing this as well because I ended up hating kind of the coloring of it. I feel like that tends to happen a lot. this is where it ended up changing back to the original font. So I kept the clipping mask that I had for the original piece and just kind of added it back on top of this, and then I decided to go for a 3D effect instead, because something about the way that the font looked with the little strips missing, I felt like meshed a little negatively with the sun in the background. So in here I'm just finishing up all of the little details, making sure that everything kind of blends the way that I want it to, and adding any sort of additional effects and moving things around so that it feels fully balanced. Here I'm just adding in the last little bit of text, which is just going to be a simple, very clean line at the very bottom of the poster. I thought this was really funny, the now that's a happy meal, because it really fits in with the theme of living fast and eating ass, I guess. And then again with font selection, because I don't know, it's always such a struggle to find the one that fits perfectly. I was looking for something that was modern, simple, minimalist, and very rounded, so it would stand out super well against the other fonts. And then for some of the final touches, just adding these grunge overlays to kind of get that weathered effect all throughout. And then I think we're done.